Welcome back to another episode 78 of the Spittin Hoops podcast. This is the culmination episode, my favorite episode of the season. We have some fun stuff. You know I love talking cap space, but we watch all season, all regular season. We talk about cap space. We talk about the offseason to get to this point, the NBA playoffs, and we're about to see what's going to go down. But for podcasting's sake, we're about to tell you what we think might go down. And we're going to analyze every series, which makes this my favorite podcast of the year. With me, I got Tony, the resident Celtics fan, 2 seed in the East, and one of the title favorites, maybe one of the teams we picked for the title. So, Anthony, how are you feeling?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Doing great. Happy 78th podcast and happy 78th regular season of the NBA. How we doing?
Damn, that's actually a fantastic. That's a really great fun fact.
Thank you. That's all I got.
I like that. And it flowed. It flowed perfectly.
Yes,
so
sir.
we're going to do a series by series breakdown. As we do that, we'll give you some predictions. And then once we get into like second round potential series, we'll base that off of our predictions, et cetera, and break those down. But this is, truly going to be an hour of just basketball playoffs, et cetera. But first, we have a few things to get to, including the play-in games, which will pretty much all be wrapped up, if I remember correctly, by the time that you guys see these podcasts. But I do want to talk about both the Magic beating the Hawks last night and the Warriors beating the Grizzlies before we get into the actual playoffs. Overall, pretty interesting games. Kind of both went the way I thought they would go. I don't know about you, Tony. But on the other hand, I'm also kind of curious to see, I think the Grizzlies will probably win their second play-in game based off the winner of the Kings-Maverick series. But I'm kind of interested to see, for example, for both these teams, missing the playoffs would not be ideal,
Yeah, I mean, it would be terrible if I could see the Heat or the Bulls looks like the Heat are going to beat the Bulls tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to your point, wasn't very surprised. I think the Warriors just have that swagger and that championship pedigree that I think as one of our good friends of the show, Chapin has said, it's over for the Grizzlies. I don't even know if they're going to win against Dallas or the Kings, to be honest. I think
they
could.
Yeah,
I think they could easily blow it. It's tough. Something that was clear during that game yesterday it was tough to see where the flow of the offense was coming, especially in the early part of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Besides, literally, you just had Desmond Bane keeping them in it.
And honestly, the offense had to go through Zach Edey a lot. Frankly, the Warriors guards, I thought defensively, Moody was great defensively, but even Steph, honestly, was great defensively.
Yeah.
And to the point where it's like they're dumping the ball into Zach in the paint.
He's not ready for that.
And honestly, he played great yesterday with the rebounding and defense and also scoring at times. But when he would get the ball in the post, the ball stops. I thought Bane, like you're saying, goes amazing. I think Bane is really an incredible player. Actually, I think he's a very fantastic player. And Ja also gets pretty his ankle gets messed up in the middle of this game as well. But I don't know. I would be pretty surprised to see the Grizzlies lose. This game went pretty poorly, I think, for the Grizzlies. I think the Warriors are kind of a weird matchup. They have their number at this point and to a certain extent. And the Grizzlies still almost won. The thing is, the Grizzlies have a lot of, this is something I'll get to later. They have a lot of scoring avenues. They have a lot of guys who put up 10 points, 15 points.
Yeah, it was just tough to see the flow of their offense.
Yeah.
And I think that just new coach syndrome just kind of felt like for a while they're running around with their heads chopped off. To their credit, they did come back and they made it more of a game. So maybe that's something where if the Kings or the Mavs don't have that punch, especially the Mavs, not really sure where they're going to create a lot of their offense, especially against the guards. How are you going to attack the guards in the Grizzlies? So it'll be interesting. In general, I'm going to take a step back from the games. I know that we have recent history of teams in the play-in making runs to the finals in the Heat, or at least the Western Conference Finals with the Lakers. I think typically once you get your 7 seed locked away, it's kind of fine. And I gotta say, I just love the plan. I think it's so great. This has been awesome to see. Um, the only thing I might tweak is, and I don't know what you think about this. I loved in the bubble when they had a game differential for if you were
The
allowed to
barrier to
play.
trigger it, to trigger it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think if you're a 9-10 and you're
Mhm.
so bad, like I don't want to see Phoenix. I'm sorry. I just don't need to see Phoenix in the play. Like the fact that they were still battling the last couple of days with like 35 wins. Um, it'd be
Yeah.
interesting to see if there's some cutoff where if you're the 9 seed, you just kind of wait for the loser of the 8, 7, 8. I don't know.
I agree to a certain extent, but I also think that we're getting really in the weeds there. And I think at
Yeah.
that point, it's like win your games. Like, you know, if
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, that's
play
true.
all like I think being a top 6 seed is not that bad of a barrier to avoid any one given plans. And also, if you're a 6 or 8 seed, you just have to win one of 2 games. I mean, a
Yeah.
7 or 8 seed, you just have to. The way they structure it, pretty forgiving. So it's like I don't know. I will say I think that does make sense competitively, but in general, kind of down for it. I'm kind of with it. Um, yeah, and
Yeah.
I think you also see things like I kind of wanted to see if Reese Shea and Dyson Daniels could actually create offense in an elimination game, which they couldn't,
Right.
by the way, which they could not. And the Magic, obviously, defensively, a great team. But
Right.
also, you watch a game like that, I'm like, dang, like Cole Anthony could play 5 minutes potentially somewhere. Um,
Right.
and so I like seeing stuff like that, even if it's matchups that you wouldn't typically see. Like tonight, um, Mavericks Kings. I'm kind of curious to see if Brandon Williams gets run for the Mavericks, which is random. Like this is nerd stuff. Um, but yeah, so on a personal level, I like it. On the competitiveness level, I do agree that there should probably be a game trigger. Whether that be like 8 games or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it can be a big lead just to protect against like a 30, like a Trailblazers or some kind of Raptor situation.
Well, I mean, to be fair, right now the Mavericks are 9 games away from the Grizzlies or the Warriors. Like we have a pretty big gap in the West after
Yeah,
the Heat. And
yeah,
to be fair, if you told me you didn't want to watch the Mavericks this year in a playing game, I also would say I don't blame you. like
right, right,
like that doesn't necessarily hurt your argument.
right.
Um,
And it's not their fault. Like they just got so unlucky, and their GM, like something happened to his brain, and he traded away their best player.
okay,
But
can we take like 2 seconds? Did you see the stuff where he did a closed door interview sesh that was technically off the record, but like
yeah,
just got leaked? It was weird.
yeah,
With just like specific media members, like six or
yeah,
seven media
yeah,
members.
yeah, yeah,
Um, and he was like, basically, like he doesn't care about the fans. He doesn't care what Dirk thinks because Tim McMahon asked him a really pointed question, which actually Tim McMahon, who's gotten like criticism for the way he's covered this in Maverick spaces, he was really like straight up. He was like, "Bro, like you burn bridges with the fans, you burn bridges with Dirk, like." You've let go of everyone Dirk knew in the organization. Like even if you feel right about this move, there's stuff across the board that seems worrisome. Like how would you respond to that? And he was
Mhm.
like, I don't care. Like I don't care about Dirk. Don't care about the fans. Like, I'm trying to win. And I just saw that and I was like, damn. Like I have lots of thoughts in terms of like the fans pay the owners who pay your salary. So like be careful, Nico.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
Seriously.
just because you could probably retire and never have to work a day again in your life doesn't mean like you should take this for granted
Mhm.
because you can't. Um, but second of all, it's like if I was a Mavericks fan, man, I would not be able to watch this team. And it's no shame to the players. This is the other thing. There's no flame to the players in this because they've actually played very hard given the circumstances.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and I'm sure they were also shocked. Those guys are there to play with Luca, and as much as
yeah.
they're playing with AD and Kyrie, who then got
Mhm.
hurt, but great players. They're there to play with Luca. I mean, Quentin Grimes was on a podcast last week talking about the trade comes through. They all leave their rooms and are like yelling in the hallway in like frustration, like what the fuck just happened, you
Right.
know. Which, by the way, Quentin Grimes, love this great piece of information, and I love the podcast era because that's
Huge.
awesome to hear about that.
Yeah.
Um, but so no flame to the players. But if I was a Mavericks fan, man, it would be really tough to support the team. Again, no flame to the players. By the way, they have played their hearts out given this situation. But yeah,
Yeah, bro. I'd be pissed. Have you seen Severance?
no, actually,
The premise of the show is essentially you work for a company and you go down this elevator and then it like switches your brain, and your inner version at work doesn't know what your outer version does, and your outer version doesn't
Mhm.
know what you do at work. And I
Mhm.
heard a take that was like Mavericks fans just need to do severance to their own brains when they go into the game so that they can enjoy the basketball games and then come out and then severance themselves again and be disappointed. I fully get everything you're saying. I still don't understand the logic of this trade. I don't understand A, why you make it at all. B, why you don't trade with more than one team. And C, if you're only going to trade with one team, why don't you get Austin Reeves back? If nothing else.
I mean,
Terrible trade, terrible decision making. And we see these fire Nico chants. I don't know, man. I feel so bad for Dallas.
it's one of those situations like if you make that one move and you really thought that was a winning move, and I wholeheartedly disagree with it. I think it's a
Yeah.
terrible, whatever. But that is one thing. But the shitting on Luca on the way out, the
Yeah.
antagonizing the fans, antagonizing team legends, um, refusing to answer to the media, kicking out fans who chant fire your name. Like that combination of all those things makes it really like tough to respect at all. If you truly thought that individual move was a good basketball move and you're willing to stand on it, that's one thing. But clearly, it doesn't feel like he was truly willing to stand on it. Warriors fans booed Chris Mullin, who's getting his jersey retired, and Joe Lacob, who had just bought the team. In front of all of Oracle, in front of Chris Mullin, who was getting his jersey retired, a legend, the day after Monte Ellis got traded. Joe Lacob didn't start kicking people out of the stadium. What?
Right. Right.
Like, and I'm not trying to compare Luka Doncic to Monte Ellis here, but like,
Right.
come on now. Anyways, sorry, I had a big rant. I've been feeling some type of way
Yeah.
about that.
Gives big Dylan Brooks Memphis Grizzlies versus Lakers I poke Bears vibes, and then he like won't talk afterwards, and they just get curb stomped. So
You got to
I
stand
guess
on it. You got to stand. If you
got him.
you thought that was the right move, you convinced your owners that this was the right move. Like,
Yeah, you
you
went
know,
through many barriers to entry for this trade to happen.
so stand on it. Like,
So
stand on
stand
it. Do
on it.
the
And some
interviews. Tell people you would like it. Like he's been telling people to a certain extent. He's been saying like defensive championships. Like I truly believe that's the right move. But you just got to stand on that and leave it there. All
yeah,
the extra stuff,
yeah,
the pooping on Luke on the way out.
it's crazy.
Anyways,
It's crazy. Yeah.
few more things. So, anything else
Yes,
on
sir.
plan?
No, I mean, yeah, the idea is great. I think in the West it really works because there are so many teams, and it does the concept is awesome. It's a great concept. It keeps teams winning that are higher in. You can't kind of like half tank your way in the last couple of games of the season to like get a more favorable matchup. You don't want to be a 7 seed, so I do love that.
Yeah,
Um,
totally agree. Yeah. Small notes that I have. These plans have a good amount of implications on some future picks. So if the Grizzlies make the playoffs, their first round pick goes to the Wizards. They miss the playoffs, they keep their first round pick. This is part of the Marcus Smart trade. And actually, if the Wizards miss the playoffs, they owe a future second rounder. So that's how the way the protection is going there. So the Wizards are really hoping that the Grizzlies make the playoffs. The Heat are going to get the Warriors first round pick since they qualified for the playoffs now after the
hmm,
playing game from the Jimmy Butler trade. But the Heat also have some interesting stuff going on here. So if the Heat make the playoffs, if they make the playoffs, their first goes to OKC. And then in 2027, their first round pick is top 14 protected to Charlotte and then unprotected in 2028 from the Terry Rozier trade. So basically, they'll give two first round picks that will be non lottery picks. If they miss the playoffs, they keep their first, but their next year first goes to Oklahoma City, which could be lottery, could
hmm,
not be lottery. You find out then later. But then they have a 2028 unprotected going to Charlotte, which could be lottery. So there's a lot
hmm.
of moving parts here, and it kind of changes the timeline depending on if the Heat make the playoffs or miss the playoffs. If they make the playoffs, they don't get their first round pick. They're probably just running this iteration of this team back for another year.
Hmm.
If they miss the playoffs, you can kind of start this readjustment a little bit earlier with the Warriors pick and your own pick in the lottery. So, yeah.
Interesting. Hmm.
So a lot of movement. I don't know which one I would prefer. If I'm a Heat fan, I probably just want the picks earlier. Just give me the picks, I'll use them. Um,
Hmm.
it's not like they're super duper deep right now, anyways. You got space to get some rookies in.
Right.
Um, And who knows?
Those,
If the Warriors are going to be like what the 20th pick, and if the Heat pick, if they miss the playoffs, is like 13th pick, with 20 and 13, could you move up to 9?
mhm,
Yeah, so
right.
probably
Yeah,
want that.
that's
Um,
interesting.
that said, the Heat could lose tonight. I haven't checked the score, and then miss the playoffs instantly, or we'll see what happens. Um, Last note: the Kings pick could go to Atlanta. There's basically like 5% chance. The Mavericks would have to make the playoffs fully. The winner of the Bulls Heat game tonight would have to make the playoffs fully, and the Kings would have to win a coin flip for 12 versus 13 against the Hawks, which would give the Kings the 12th pick, which was then conveyed to the Hawks because the Hawks have the Kings picks protected 1 through 12. The most fun part about this is that in that coin flip between the Hawks and the Kings, it's not really a coin flip between the Hawks and the Kings. It's a coin flip between the Kings and the Spurs because the Spurs have the Hawks pick. So
Mm.
anyways, there's some fun stuff there. I just want to throw that in.
Wait, so the Kings pick could go to Atlanta or could go to San Antonio?
It could go to Atlanta based off of what happens with the Hawks pick that is conveying to the Spurs,
Oh, interesting.
basically. That said, the only way for them to get to that point would be if the Bulls or the Heat made the playoffs and then the Mavericks made the playoffs, because those teams would push the Kings pick outside of the protected range.
Interesting.
Anyways, fun stuff there.
That's so funny. Yeah, I love that.
Um,
Fun little tidbits.
or sorry, the Kings pick, and I think I had said it could go to Atlanta. It could stay with the Kings if it lands in the top 12. Sorry, but
And
um,
this stuff is small, but like there's gonna be some TikTok edit of, you know, some guy in one of these playing games that like comes off the bench that puts up 20 that allows for this situation to happen, that allows for one of these teams that wasn't going to get a guy to now get a guy in the 13th pick who ends up being like an all-star adjacent player and saying thank you to like some guy on the friggin' Mavs. Like that's what
yeah,
happens.
no, 100%. Like if the Heat lose in the last playing game to the
The
Magic because Cole
Yeah.
Anthony, or not the
Or
Magic,
the
to the
Hawks,
Hawks
yeah.
because Risache had 40, like, and then the Heat have two firsts and then use those firsts to do something. Like, I don't know. I'm just highlighting
Right.
that stuff because I think it's interesting, and we'll
Yeah.
track those over the course of the offseason and whatnot.
Not very exciting.
With that, I think
Yes,
that's
sir.
enough of the rest of the stuff. We've been beating around the bush. Anthony, you want to take us into the playoffs?
Yes, sir. Should we want to start East or West? Let's do
Uh,
East.
yeah, pick your poison.
I feel like East. So the East, we're gonna, for all intents and purposes, say it's closed out. We know that there's a game going on. Looks like the Heat are gonna win it. But whatever. The point though is that the Cavs are going to face either the Hawks or the Bulls or the Heat. The Pacers and the Bucks are going to face off in a rematch of last year's first round series. The Knicks and the Pistons are going to play. Congratulations to the Pistons for making the playoffs for the first time in a long time, since 2019, I believe. And the Celtics are going to play against the Orlando Magic. Um, there's some interesting, intriguing series here. Definitely fewer championship contender related series. Nonetheless, a lot of exciting stuff. Max, where should we get started? Should we do the 1-8?
Yeah, let's just do the 1A. I think we can
Let's
get
do
that out of the way.
Yeah.
First,
You
I
know,
just wanted to say I think the Cavs have some flaws that can be exposed. We'll probably get to those later.
yeah.
I think specifically is just having pretty mid threes, potential to get out rebounded, and then guards who might struggle to defend at times. Frankly, the Hawks, Heat, and Bulls, all three of those teams are teams that either share those weaknesses or not teams that I think could expose those weaknesses. Um, I think it's probably a sweep against any of these teams in my eyes.
Yeah, I agree with you. Maybe there's a chance that like rest or something like that hurts them. I don't believe there's any. There's no health concerns with the Cavs, right?
No, I don't believe so.
No. Then yeah, I mean this is gonna be quick work of whichever one of these teams. The only way that this would have been more interesting is if the Hawks still had Jalen Johnson, and that's the only thing
Oh,
that's a shame.
absolutely. Yeah. But
That's
then they're
that's
probably
that
this. Then they're probably the 7.
They arguably could be the seven, and we'd
Yeah,
have a very exciting play-in situation going on, and that wouldn't be a team I'd want to face.
agreed.
Yeah, I agree. It'd be interesting to see how the kind of the weaknesses that you're talking about, especially those like defending guards, play out. But this will be
It's just like however much Trey can expose
all right.
that
Trey
guard
or Tyler
tandem,
Hero, yeah,
that however the much those guys can expose Mitchell and Garland
and
defensively,
Garland,
those
yeah,
guys are gonna expose them on the other end.
right.
I think there's just levels. There's just levels in these playoffs. I think these are all three of these teams that might play the Cavs, the Hawks, the Heat, the Bulls. These are probably the three worst teams left in the whole playoffs, barring the Kings or the Mavericks getting in. Yeah,
Yeah, it's this is a tune up series for them, which will be great when they face the winner of the other series on the other side of their part of the bracket, which is the Pacers Bucks. I'm really excited for this series. I think this is going to be super fun. If I recall correctly, the Pacers won in six last year, but there were a lot of injury concerns, and Chris Middleton had turned into the second coming of Michael Jordan for a couple of games there. This is going to be really interesting. We haven't seen Giannis in the first round since out of the first round since 2022 when he was defending his championship. Um, and there's been some really tough first round matchups for him. And part of it is injury. Part of it was a Miami Heat team going crazy. But I'm really curious to hear what you think about how this series is going to go. This could go either way to me.
I think it could go either way. I'm just pretty concerned about the Bucks. Lillard, by the way, update may play if the Bucks get further into the playoffs. Obviously, he
Mm.
had his blood clot issue, but isn't expected to play in the beginning games of this Pacers series. Um, I got the Pacers in six. I think the Pacers are a better team than what they were last year. I think the Bucks are a worse team at this point without Lillard, unfortunately. Um, I know Lopez has played pretty well this season. I know Trent has played pretty well this season. Even guys like AJ Green, etc. Um, I don't think they're that good. Frankly, I don't think any of those players are that good. I think the Bucks are missing pretty aggressively. Like if you do the points numbers, I mean, Giannis gives you 40. Even if Green gives you 10, Trent gives you 10, Lopez gives you 10, Portis gives you 10, you're only up to 80 points. Just like that math is like, the math is a little rough and you're really dependent on like big games from content, Ryan Rollins,
Yeah,
um, Kevin Porter Jr.
yeah.
And I think those guys can help you enough to win you two, maybe three games. Frankly, I'd be pretty surprised to see them win the series. I have the Pacers and I feel pretty comfortable about it. Um, I think, yeah, I think they figured out the rotations more so than they kind of had at this point last season, a team that didn't have Matherin last season. Another year being together, and as much as we've had our concerns about like a Halliburton, for example, he's played better in the second half than in the first.
Mhm.
So that's kind of my analysis. I feel pretty comfortable. I feel pretty comfortable with this team. No Lillard is a problem. I know the Bucks beat the Pacers 3 out of 4 times this season, but Lillard is in every single one of those games, and every single one of those games is quite close.
Mhm.
No Lillard is a big deal as much as I've said bad things about Lillard previously, but that his presence
Me
is
neither.
undeniable. Yeah, his presence
Yeah.
is undeniable on a team Bucks team like that.
I love this man. You remember when Giannis had his career high scoring night and that was against Indiana? And then he wanted the ball and then they weren't gonna give him the game ball. Do you remember this?
Well, yeah, I
Like
remember that.
they got
He's gonna have a game with 60 in the series.
and that's so my thinking on this is one is Siakam has a thing right now kind of with his elbow. Um, and he's been great, but they really really need him for transition offense, and it's kind of just like bailout offense. Um, and I'm just kind of like looking at their roster. We talked about this, I think, a couple of podcasts ago about the Pacers' lack of size. I think their offense is incredible. Game seven last year against the Knicks was just a tour de force when it looked like they were allergic to missing threes. As a Celtics fan, watching them play last year with McConnell, with Nemhard, with Neesmith, they were all great. Um, there's just something about this where maybe this is just zagging your take, but I feel like if Giannis can just absolutely bully the hell out of Miles Turner, just get him in foul trouble, and then they could just play big with Bobby Portis and Brooke Lopez. I'm actually going to go with the Bucks here in 7 for nothing else than I think Giannis is going to be on a mission and he's going to have some LeBron like kind of elevation to get them there. And to your point, they're going to need their role players to shoot the absolute living daylights out of the ball. That's the only way this is going to work. But, we got to have some spicy takes, so that'll be my spicy take. The Bucks outperform the expectations that I think many people have. My gut had initially said Pacers, and it might end up being right, but I'm gonna go with the Bucks here.
Listen, if Kuzma averages 20 points a game in this series, like they're probably going to win it.
Yeah,
He might average 20 points a game on 30 shots.
yeah, the offense. Yeah.
Anyways, I think this is gonna be a high scoring series. By the way, that is gonna be like a weird you're gonna have some weird stat lines. Like Portis is gonna have a 30 point. You know,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah. I
anyways,
I think Nemhard is gonna cook.
yeah,
I think
absolutely. No, I
Nemhard and
totally agree.
McConnell are abs. I mean, Halliburton, of course. I think just this guard rotation and forward rotation is so deep, dude. And to your point, Matherin being back and
Yeah,
Toppin's great. Like,
yeah, yeah. I feel pretty comfortable. I mean, they might just start because the thing is, Matherin usually, or not Matherin, it's Neesmith. You usually like him because more 3 and D role player in that starting lineup, etc. Like you just throw Matherin in the starting lineup because who's guarding him? Like who does he need to guard? Like does Neesmith need to like strap Kyle Kuzma?
yeah. Well,
I don't know. So
yeah.
like Ben Shepherd is going to get some run here, basically. Like I think guys like that who are more fringe bench options with a little bit more pop than maybe a Neesmith might get
Mhm.
some run here because yeah, it's gonna be a pretty high scoring game.
I'm very curious to
Um,
see like how they build the wall for Giannis. Like, who's going to be involved in this wall building? Because
I don't think
remember,
I don't
you don't
think they're
think
gonna
that's
wall it.
necessary?
I don't think they're gonna do walling. Like I think it's just gonna be like you know one center. Giannis,
Yeah,
you could score 60. Now, can you score 60 and stay on the court and do this?
man. I mean,
And even if you score 60, we might still beat you.
you might, but can you get them in foul trouble? Can you get other key guys out of the game?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
I mean, that'll be interesting. I'm curious.
it'll be, yeah. I mean, either way, that either of these teams will be a tough challenge for the Cavs, but we'll get there when we get there. Do you want to
Um,
go to the other side of the bracket?
yes.
All right. So, oh man, this is going to be a fun one, huh? Pistons and Knicks, baby. Welcome back to the playoffs.
Can I jump in
Huge.
on this? This is my
Yeah,
favorite
yeah,
first round
yeah,
series
yeah.
in the East. I think this is a really interesting and intriguing matchup. Total contrast to styles. Knicks are this top five is disgusting. These are established, very good players. Pistons, upstart, 13-man rotation,
Yeah.
young. It's a bunch of guys who've been thrown away from other franchises and a bunch of young players. Um, I I think it's very interesting. The Pistons have toyed around with a lot of lineups this season. The Knicks have toyed around with lineups due to injuries and not really due to actually trying them. And I think that's going to catch up to the Knicks a little bit in this series. I still got the Knicks, but yeah.
Yeah, what did I say in this? Um, did the Knicks win? Yeah, I think the Knicks will win just based on like the postseason experience that they have, and the top end talent is just too hard. I don't think that you have answers for Bridges and Anunoby as your, but they're just such good wing defenders. I think Josh Hart is just such a scrummy kind of do it all guy, and he kind of gives me the vibe of a Pistons type of player, like you're talking about, somebody that they threw away.
I
And
mean,
in a way, so I just think that the top end talent here. I think Brunson is still probably a better player than Cade Cunningham, even though Cade has been absolutely unbelievable this season. Just it's one of those you got to prove it things. And then I don't really know like what. But Isaiah Stewart is something. He's a good enforcer, but what are you going to do against Cat? And now that Mitchell Robinson is back, I believe, correct. Um,
Yeah.
so you have at least a semblance of some interior defense. Um, and I think the Nerves will probably just get to the Pistons. So I think the Cavs will, or sorry, the Knicks will win the series in six. But I do think it's going to be a really tough series.
Yeah, I think it's still gonna be seven. I think this is.
Mm,
Sorry, I was pulling up some of my notes. I mean, Pistons, they win three straight against the Knicks in the regular season, and this is kind of a big part of my analysis here. Is the Knicks are kind of like I said before, they're kind of setting their ways. They're not, trying a bunch of new stuff. And two of those three wins, the Pistons beating the Knicks, involved the Knicks missing starter. But
mm.
Cade was 29 and 15, then had 36 points, and then had 36 points in each of those games, respectively, those three wins.
Wow.
And I think something that the Knicks struggle with, and it's actually one of the core things that has elevated Cade's game, is his ability to make off the dribble threes when teams are playing drop coverage. In the past, he's comfortable in the mid range, and he talks about this a lot, being very comfortable taking mid range shots. But I actually think the ascension for him this season is the comfortability of going off the dribble and instantly making that decision to fire. And we've know about Carl Towns' issues with drop coverage. As a solo center, long documented. They're still going to be good, but I just would have loved to see Mitch Robinson and Towns lineups, which have only played 47 minutes together all season. Um, and Tibbs has
Wow.
just hasn't used that lineup. So I feel like that's a lineup that could be quite useful against a team that doesn't stretch the floor a ton. Um, I mean, they usually have two non-shooters on the court, right? They got usually Asar Duran or even like Schroeder, who shot 30% on 4 threes a game since he got there. And even Tobias Harris, 34% from three on 4 threes since in his time in Detroit. So basically, like, I just think the styles are kind of weird. I would have loved to see more Towns, Mitch Rob minutes because I think that lineup is very effective in a series like this. And maybe we'll see it and maybe it'll be good. But just given what we've seen, I'm a little worried. I think this is going to be a tough series for the Knicks. I think the Knicks win in seven. They should win this series, but I think the Pistons got a fighting chance.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about that drop coverage point, and I think that the Pistons have the ability or opportunity. I know Schroeder's like he's shooting bad, but he can hurt. He can heat up in
Yeah.
a hurry.
I mean, he's
So
one of
he,
these guys who can hit you. He can hit these just like absolutely gut punch threes. Like,
right,
because if you leave him open, I mean, if he's their second worst shooter on the court behind SR Thompson or behind
yeah,
Duran, like the Pistons probably feel pretty comfortable in the three. If they've
yeah,
got their other shooters there, like
yeah. I mean, if I mean Fontecchio is not like a huge piece, but if he can get going, if Tim Hardaway's shot 37% this year, he can get going. Um, I don't know if we know the status. Probably still pretty far away of Jaden Ivey,
yeah,
but
he's probably not going to play first round. He probably would play a second round
mm,
series. He would be a
so
great addition in the series, by the way. It would be great.
that might tip the scales, but it won't this year at least. Um, Man, this is gonna be a fun one, dude. This is
By
like
the
just two like Northeast fucking lunch pail gritty teams. This is gonna be so great, man.
I totally agree. And like, even if the Knicks won two straight at home, like that game three in Detroit is going to be ruckus. Like, and that's the thing. I do think the Knicks probably have a better, like, if someone's going to slam the other team in the series, it's going to be the Knicks. Like, and if the Knicks got their stuff together, I mean, their high end ceiling is way higher than the Pistons,
Yeah,
right? But
yeah.
um, I think this matchup's kind of interesting. I think there's, Cade might average like 35 a game this year. This could be a series that puts Cade on the map. A trade got put on the map from his performances against the Knicks. Like this could be somewhere.
Mm, yeah, I see that.
Mm.
Taking the bow. Um,
Um,
well, this will
yeah,
be exciting. Yeah,
yeah. We'll see. We both got the Knicks though.
yeah. All right, Celtics Magic. Last one. I mean, as the Celtics fan, I think I probably would have preferred, I guess, to have the Hawks with no Jalen Suggs or Jalen Johnson. But speaking of that, Jalen Suggs, he's really the guy that I would have been scared of the other two, of course, but Jalen Suggs is an absolute beast on the perimeter defensively. And I think this is crazy because this is a team that, like this, the contrast in these two styles is a team that shoots so many threes and so many well created threes versus a team that is just a gritty defensive team. Um, but I mean, I do severely think that even though Orlando win? Um, did Orlando win this series
In the
during
regular
the
season, I think
regular
they might
season?
have. Honestly, they played the
They might
Celtics
have.
really well.
And they tend to, and that's why I think the Celtics are 1-5 because there's going to be one game that they drop, probably a game at home if we're honest, which is going to be very frustrating as a fan. But yeah, I don't know. I think that Tatum is on sort of a warpath. I think Jalen Brown, that's something that I'm really really nervous to see about, especially because he's going to be called upon to be defending Franz and Paolo, and his knee is not fully right, so that's going to be something to navigate a little bit. If you're the Celtics, I think you want to get in and get out of the series as quickly as you can.
Don't have too much to add. I think this is a sweep for 5 games. Totally agree with you on all ends. The season series 1-2. Orlando actually won, but Boston shot 15 to 73 in the 2 losses from 3. Boston's not. That's not happening again. Maybe they win one game, Orlando, but with no Suggs, it's pretty rough. Yeah,
Yeah,
the Celtics are just built really well to guard to counter. The Magic thrive off like positional size, positional athleticism, versatility, and like the Celtics just do all that better
yeah,
and
yeah.
hit threes and hit threes.
And they can actually hit threes. Yeah.
So
So all right, should we do what we think will happen here, or should we go into the West and then we can come back here? What
let's
do you
just do
think?
the West. I say we
Okay.
do. Do you want to just do the West really quick,
Yeah, let's do the West.
and then we can get into our hypotheticals after because at least this is all set in stone.
All right. Can I start on the Thunder?
Yeah.
The Thunder whoever series?
Yeah.
Um, this is going to be an absolute bloodbath. This is going to be they won 68 games. I think that they were genuinely allergic to losing, besides a slight little blip a couple weeks ago, but that was against two very hungry teams in the Lakers and in the Rockets. They can shoot, they can defend, they can rebound, they can all pass, they can kind of do everything that the Celtics can do, and they can all play amazing defense. They have two guys that are definitely worth all defensive caliber teams. At least two guys that are all NBA teams, two great positional centers, one of which can hit threes in Chet, the other one in Ihart, who can put up 20 points per game without a problem. Um, I think that this is going to be a bloodbath and this is going to be a tune-up. Selfishly towards you, I really wish that the Warriors had lost so that they would have had some actual stiff competition.
Oh
I think the
yeah,
Warriors Thunder would have been a great series, but this one, I think the Grizzlies have fizzled out, and then the Mavs and the Kings. What are you going to do? There's no way to maybe one crazy jar Anthony Davis game or something like that. Maybe you sneak out a win by accident, but other than that, I don't see it happening.
yeah. Don't have much to add. Yeah, Warriors would have definitely. I think the Warriors are actually a pretty tough matchup for the Thunder, just with some of the stuff they do and their experience as well. Yeah, I think this is pretty much a sweep for sure. Like you said, Ja might win you a game, but
Like genuinely
I
think, yeah,
I
yeah,
I genuinely would be. I would be more surprised. Like right now, if you gave me a bet of like 50-50 odds, like are the Thunder more likely to sweep their first round series or like win in more than 4? I would maybe bet on a 50-50 odds, I might bet to sweep the series.
yeah. Yeah. I don't blame you.
If Jalen Williams got hurt, would you pick the Thunder? If Jalen Williams wasn't playing in the series, like even if he got hurt for game 1,
Yeah, I'd still pick the Thunder. I'd pick
in
the
like
Thunder if
what,
anybody except for Shea
five
was hurt.
games, like, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
The other thing is
mm,
like this team is like it feels like they play more than the sum of their parts a lot of the time. Whereas with some of these other teams, like what we saw with the Grizzlies, like yes, they were able to pull together, but there were times where it just felt like, okay, you're really talented, you're really talented, you're really talented. Um, yeah, I don't know. I still think the Thunder have 7 of the top 10 best players in this series against any of these teams.
Yeah, the Grizzlies have like different things they can try. So
Yes,
like the Thunder have like true adjustments. Oh, you stopped our starting
yes,
lineup. Okay, like stop our two center lineup. Okay, now actually we're gonna play with like four super defensive two-way wings, whether that be like Case and Wallace. I know he's guard, but like okay, we're just gonna go Wiggins, J Dubs, SJ, Case and Wallace. Like,
right,
like, oh,
yeah,
we're gonna go super small. SJ is at the three, J Dubs at the four, Chet's at the five, Caruso and
yeah,
Case and Wallace in the guard. Like they just have tried like these are true adjustments because they've tried, they've done
yeah.
proven
They've
and they've
they've
proven
had
they
all
work.
season. So yeah, so this is probably my favorite series of the first round in all the games, just because I think Kawhi and Harden are absolutely clicking at the right time. That play, we can call it a playoff game. Game 82 against your Warriors, they both played out of their mind. Harden was clutch. This roster is finally completely healthy. And going back, do you know the last time Kawhi healthily walked off a playoff floor in a loss,
I
in a
honestly
series loss?
don't. I honestly don't
Dude,
remember.
I think it's 2016.
2016,
Let's go back. 2023, he's hurt. 2022, he's hurt.
2019.
He walks off in a win. The last time he's walked off in a loss while healthy is
Hmm.
2016. Not to say that obviously, history, whatever. I think it's 2017 he got hurt.
Didn't he play, wasn't there a series that he finished out that Paul George got hurt though? When- I could have
Um,
been something.
in with the Clippers, I think it was the reverse, where the Paul George brought them to the conference finals.
Oh no, but didn't he play 2019, 2020 when they
Oh,
lose against the
2020.
Nuggets? Or they
Yes, you're
lose
right.
against the
You're
Nuggets.
right. You're right. Oh, non-bubble. Oh, very
But
good point.
outside of
Yeah.
that, that's the only one. That's the only one.
Right. So once
And
in
he's only
in the
won one
last
chip.
8 years, ironically, to this exact team,
Yeah.
with 2 or 3 of the same players. So this is going to be, but I think the depth, actually, weirdly, there's a lot of correlations here, where maybe the Nuggets kind of were on their upswing and now maybe they're considered to be on their downswing. But I love the Bogdanovich pickup that they had. Derek Jones Jr. has been shooting the ball much better. Um, and Kawhi looks really, really good right now. And they're 18-3 in their last 21. This is a really fun team.
Another team with other aspects, Ben Simmons getting minutes, however you feel about him, but
Yeah,
Chris Dunn, like you said, Bogdanovich, the minutes that he gives you as like a floor spacer was something that they needed, but Terrence Mann
huge.
was not giving them. You know, yeah, I think it was a fascinating series. I think the 7 guys Denver's going to trot in the series with 7 or 8 guys. We'll see how much Westbrook gets used, but he's going to get used. Um, yeah, I think this feels like a 7 gamer. This feels like a
Yeah.
feels like a 7 gamer, and I will say part of that makes me worried that Harden and Kawhi will last all 7 games.
Mm,
But should they last all 7 games, they're going to be tough to beat.
they're going to be so tough. I think for the Nuggets, this will probably happen anyways, but you need at least 3 nuclear Jokic games where he's just like finding passes out of midair. And like, even if
40,
they're not,
2017.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And even if he's not hitting, or even if his teammates aren't hitting, Aaron Gordon is consistently finding himself in the dunker spot. But this is also going to be hard, dude, because Zubats is really, really good. I don't know if there's 5 centers in the NBA right now that are better than him, especially defensively, like we talked about in the last podcast. He's unbelievable. Now, granted, the on-off numbers when Big Zoo's there are also kind of scary for the season. Like the Clippers really rely on him being on the court. So it'll be interesting to see how they kind of offset each other. But the difference in Zubats being there versus Jokic is huge. What is it, like 20-point swing in points per possession or something like that when Jokic is on or off the court?
So
Like they go from, yeah, it's stupid. They go from an amazing title defending team to bottom feeder.
amen, but I will say if you get 15 minutes of Russ taking care of those non-Jokic minutes, keeping them
That's true.
relatively close, like the gap. This is the thing. It's like the Clippers are really good, but the gap for the Nuggets to actually win this series is not that far. Like, they're
No.
still an incredibly good team, and their
Oh
starting
yeah.
lineup still competes favorably. Like that's the
Yeah.
thing. Like the Jokic minutes, the Nuggets are going to win those, and
Yeah.
like that's the thing. The Nuggets are not too far off. That's why I think it's a 7 game. That's really why I think it's a 7 game. Um,
Yeah.
Kawhi will miss a game, so the Nuggets will win one. He'll get two just Jokic, I'm better games.
Yeah. That's
We'll see from
three.
there.
And then that's a 7 game series. To
And
your
the
point, I
Jokic
think
I'm better game might one of them might also be like, oh, the bench actually showed up. But
right. And it could be, oh, the bench didn't show up, and Russell Westbrook did the same thing that did against the Timberwolves, and he smokes a layup. Um, that's going to be interesting. I think, especially with this new coach, there's going to be a couple crunch time games, and we saw that what they did against the Lakers last couple of years. They felt very comfortable, very confident going in this 2-man game with Jokic and Murray. Now you got Russ in there. This is also not the Lakers. I think that there's this element of fear where the Lakers just couldn't get past the Nuggets. That's not there anymore. I'm very curious to see what they do in late game situations here. This is going to be such a fun series.
I think they're five though. I think they're five. I mean
Of
Jamal Brown,
MPJ.
MPJ, Gordon, Jokic. Those guys are going to play 40 minutes each. Like
Oh,
honestly,
man, but to your point about Kawhi, I wonder about Jamal a little bit in the health.
listen, I think that's a fair concern, but Jamal just plays in the playoffs. I don't know, playoff Jamal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a little bit diffy.
Um, yeah, I don't know.
But
I think
the
this is a fascinating
the but
series.
the one thing I agree. I just like how well did he do against those wing defenders for the Timberwolves last year? Didn't he play pretty poorly? And now you got Chris Dunn and Kawhi. Um,
I thought he was fine last year.
did he play all right?
He definitely struggled. I mean, he was the only him and Jokic are the only
There,
creators on that team,
dude.
right? Like
Yeah,
they're the only two guys who can dribble a basketball. But like you also did
legit.
you also had like KCP and MPJ shooting like 35% from the field in that
Yeah.
series, if I remember.
Oh,
But that I think that's fair. I also think Jamal can get to the rack against the Zoo. Like if Zubac is getting pulled
sure.
on Jokic, Jamal can get to the rack. If Gobert was getting pulled on, if Gobert was getting pulled on Jokic, Gobert would just stay in the paint and Cat was guarding Jokic. So it's
Right.
like there was always that was the thing about the team. It was like their defense so incredible. It's like even if however you felt about Cat, you know, you got two 7 footers and his foot speed at the perimeter wasn't like horrible, and so he can guard guys out there, and Gobert can just stay at the center spot. So, anyways, I don't know if the
No,
Clippers got that.
I think that's definitely fair. That switchability in the big situation isn't there.
Yeah. And offensively, if you're going with these done Derrick Jones Jr. lineups, like you are sacrificing a stretch 3-point shooter in
Yeah.
Bogdanovich. Like Derrick Jones, if
Yeah.
they play Derrick Jones Jr. 25 minutes a game, the Nuggets are going to start moving them over.
You better hit threes. Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to say like Chris Dunn, for example, who is amazing defensively. They're just going to be like,
Yeah. All
let's
right,
see.
beat us. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair. Um,
I got the Clippers in 7. I think the Nuggets are not too far off of winning the series. Just don't think the vibes are there. Don't think they're gonna get. I just don't think they're gonna win. I think Jokic is gonna be incredible in this series, and I just think they're gonna get slimed every minute that he's off the court.
yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. For that reason, I'm gonna say Clippers in 6. I think they win and they finish it out at home. And that'll be exciting.
I'm kind of sensing like a running out of gas game 7 again, which would be
Mm,
tough. But I
right.
just think I think the Nuggets are still a good team. I don't want to
Very good.
I'm crapping on
This
them a lot, but
this reminds me of the I think it was the 2015 season, the first season, the year Warriors won the chip. The West was so deep that year, and I think they actually played the Rockets. But there was that first round series with the Clippers and the Spurs, and they were like a 3-6 matchup, and that feels like
it
one of
feels
these
very
like
similar to this.
right like very good title contending teams.
Like these are
So
just like heavy hitters, and in first
yeah,
round they're throwing haymakers.
brutal.
By the way, neither of these teams are winning. Like I don't think either of these teams are pushing OKC to 7, 6. Sorry,
Well, we'll get there.
we'll get there, but Yeah, this is just for these are going to be haymakers for the right to get sacrificed to OKC. Honestly,
The
um,
altar. You want to tee us up for the other side of the bracket?
who we got left? Who we got left? Oh, you got Lakers, T-Wolves, and Rockets, Warriors. You wanna let's leave my Warriors for the win. I'm sure I'll
All
do
right.
it.
All right. You can pick at the end. This series is going to be super exciting. I think I have the Lakers beating the Timberwolves in what do I have them? In seven, I think. And that is yes, in seven. I think it's just a classic home court situation. I do not know how the Lakers play, to be honest. How much home court helps? No, it doesn't help the Celtics, but I think a couple things. My big things here are one, they just need to turn on the defensive valve on Anthony Edwards throughout the game, especially in the fourth quarter. I think offense can be really hard to come by. I think it's hard for them to generate offense. I know that Julius Randle has been playing better, but if you are going to rely on Julius Randle to cook, you're in trouble. I think that you need to take Rudy Gobert out of the game, pull him out of the paint, and then just kind of let your big three cook. In my mind, you can argue that you have easily two of the top three, and then maybe three of the top four best offensive creators, and maybe Julius Randle is in there too. But I just think that like that trio is playing so well right now. So and that early season defense, maybe it's a help, maybe it's a harm. I do think that that's something that the Timberwolves can capitalize on here, where when the Lakers were playing really well team defense, it was a new team every night. And I think if the Timberwolves can adjust and they have such a good defense, they're going to need to attack the hell out of Luka and LeBron and Reeves, get them into foul trouble early, tire them out, especially LeBron. And if you can play big, like with Randall and Reed, they don't have a good center. And also don't let the Lakers win this free throw shooting contest because they always get more calls. So those are my kind of thoughts. This is such a toss up series to me. I
Yeah,
could see it
this
go either
is
way.
yeah. I do. I'm kind of on your end, and I do trend towards the Lakers just because, like you said, offensively. I mean, they got 70 points just right there. You know,
Right.
um,
Right.
every night, and like even though the T-Wolves are an amazing defense, I just don't know. Like Ant could have 40 a night, and like I still don't know if the offense is there. For the T-Wolves, just given Jaden McDaniels as well as he's played in stretches and whatnot. Really curious to see, if Mike Conley's getting run, you know, the T-Wolves might get run out of this series. Like they're gonna need to figure out that guard defense, basically. Like Mike Conley, Dillingham, these are not I don't know if these are guys who can play in the series.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, they're undersized.
they're way too undersized for the positional height that the Lakers have. And when I say they can't play in the series, they will get minutes. Even in their
Yeah.
low moments in the series, they'll get minutes. Um, These are Mike Conley, Dillingham, guys like that are not guys who can close games. Even DiVincenzo, like I'm a little nervous. Like
He had big
DiVincenzo's like
he had big
what?
games last year.
He had big games, but he's going to be guarding Luka
Yeah.
in crunch
Yeah.
time. You know, like,
Yeah.
um, so I got the Lakers as well in seven. I got a lot of 7 game series for me in this first round. I just kind of
Oh,
think
I hope
that
so.
I think the T-Wolves like just have like a really high flow because they're gonna have a game where they're gonna strap the Lakers and they're gonna be up 20 at halftime, and the Lakers are gonna win. And then they're gonna have a game where Edwards is like just him because I think Edwards is that good. Aside of that, it's like I can't like is there a Julius Randle game in the series, And if there is, and there could be, which like so be it, but like
It'll be interesting to see what happens with LeBron here too. I know that he loves the extra rest and all that. So is he going to be rejuvenated? Because there's been stretches this season where he's felt like a top five player in the league, and then there's been stretches where it's been like closer to top 20.
and this is
Um,
a physical series for him
yeah,
because Hayes, as good as Hayes is going to be foul trouble machine. Like
yeah,
because Gobert and Randall and Edwards are just they're getting ticky tack fouls on Hayes and everything.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Randall
And
with
Reed.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean Gobert, I don't know. He has no offensive game, but at least Reed, he can like they're just gonna attack the paint. Um, but this is gonna be a very exciting series. Um,
When you're saying Reed, where do you mean?
Nas Reed,
Oh yeah, sorry. I thought you were talking about someone like Lakers. I was
Paul
like,
Reed. You thought I
yeah, I
was
was
talking
like,
about Paul Reed?
I was like,
Paul Reed?
dude,
Ain't he on the Pistons?
no. By the way, Nas Reed, who I don't think we mentioned enough for a six man in our last episode.
I was also thinking that. You know who else I was thinking of?
18
I
games started. I kind of
oh,
ruled him out off that, but that's totally enough to still be in the six man
that's
combo.
yeah. Dude, oh that, and I was also thinking about Norm Powell. We should have given him more love for the most improved player. We should have at least mentioned him. He had such a
Yeah, we
good
should
jump.
get him. He deserved a little shot.
Little shot.
Um, okay. Yeah, so Lakers in seven. You got Lakers in
7.
okay, awesome.
Cool.
Let me take this
All
really
right. All
quick
right.
because I have a
Look,
lot of thoughts. Because let me tell you, I really love the Rockets. The Rockets are one of my favorite teams to watch. If I was a GM right now, I would go down the list. They'd have 14 out of 15 other guys are guys I would like, you know. Um, so there's that. I also really like teams that have adjustment number 2, 3, 4 to go to in a playoff series, which the Rockets, despite being a really young team, they do have. Um, that said, this Warriors team, since the Jimmy Butler trade, is number one in defensive rating, number 8 in offensive rating, with a pretty mid offense, which further kind of indicates that their defense is creating a lot of this offense. Which is number 3 in net rating overall since the Jimmy trade. They're 22-5 with Jimmy and Steph in the lineup since in that time. Um, so the thing is with the Warriors, though, look at them for a sec. I don't know if they're a true contender yet. I think they're not that far off, though. Their current scoring breakdowns, though, frankly, that I'm seeing, especially in these runs in the last few weeks, it just means that they're not all the way there yet. So the last two games specifically, the Grizzlies and the Clippers, you're basically getting 30 to 35 from both Steph and Jimmy, 15 to 20 from Draymond, Post, Looney, combined. And then you're hoping for like 30 from Pods, GP2, Moody, and Heels combined, right? And that scoring breakdown takes you to around 110 to 120 points in like the best case, which just mathematically doesn't really feel high enough to compete with a lot of these teams throughout the playoffs. It might be for the Rockets, but throughout the playoffs, I'm not sure. We'll see. Um, so every single one of these games end up being kind of slugfest unless the Warriors defense can absolutely stifle someone. Which outside of like the T Wolves in the playoffs last year, we don't really see that much of, just given the offensive boom in the NBA. That said, I say all this. They're like 10 points, like a consistent 15 points per game off of from like Moody or Pods from being an extremely good team. In that case, it's another threat who can score in closing lineups because right now Moody and Pods have not been dependable in scoring in closing lineups. And it kind of gets you close to that 125, 130 scoring average, which is kind of what you're looking for to win games right now. And that's all with these estimates of like Jimmy and Steph combining for 35, which I just don't know if it's sustainable. Um, so pause on all the Warriors stuff. I just think the Rockets are a super hard matchup for the Warriors, given their length, athleticism, depth of scoring. That again, 13 guys you'd want on your basketball team, and very few teams have like a third, fourth, fifth adjustment like the Warriors have, which is like Looney in closing lineups, GP2 in closing lineups, or like Kuminga minutes, potentially. But the Rockets have that ability too, with like Şengün, Adams, two big lineups. They could close without Green and put in like Eason or Jabari Smith, etc. And there's gonna be bad blood. I'm
hmm.
super excited for the series. I think the Rockets are actually a really tough matchup for the Warriors. Their speed, athleticism, instant decision making is going to put a lot of pressure on the Warriors' role guys. If Pods and Moody don't show up at all, like they could lose a series no matter what Jimmy and Steph do. So that's why I'm taking the Warriors at 7. I really want to take the Rockets, or I really almost took the Rockets.
Fair enough. I'm actually gonna zag here with you on this. I think that you kind of convinced me accidentally, but I think I'm gonna go with the Warriors in 6. Um, I was pretty impressed by how they played against Memphis. Granted, how they played against Houston. Houston completely stifled them and came back and just eviscerated them with that tenacious defense. in the playoffs, you're going to need shot attempts because the game is going to slow down. So I do think that's going to benefit you guys a little bit. Um, the stat that I saw was that the Rockets average about 5.5 more shooting opportunities than their opponents do, which is the league's biggest differential and the fifth biggest for any team in the last 25 years.
Yeah.
And but that being said, they aren't very good at shooting. And like I don't know who their shot creator is going to be. Is it going to be Fred Van Fleet? Is it going to be Jalen Green?
Yeah.
Who's that guy going to be? And I
You,
think that in close games is going to be
you
tough.
either have a lot of pressure on Jalen Green and Van Fleet to be like these one-on-one scorers, shot creators, or you have a
Yeah,
lot of pressure on like Jabari Smith, like hit a three when we
right.
need you. Tari
Yeah,
Eason hit a three when we need
yeah,
you. Like they don't necessarily need both to happen, but you need one of the two, or else you're kind of cooked.
yeah. Right. I think so. And I think there's probably going to be one Rockets blowout here in this series. Um, maybe two. Like maybe that's how they end up winning and they just kind of step on the Warriors' throat and like the Warriors are never able to get within 10, 15 points. I think that's kind of how they have to win. Because if it's within seven,
Mhm.
6 with a few minutes to go, I think that there's that Jimmy Butler factor where we saw yesterday. He was taking
He's gonna go to the
everybody
line
to the
every
rim
time.
every
Yeah, he
single
just does.
time. And then they're in foul trouble. And it's a different player on the Rockets. And to your point, yes, they can make all these different adjustments, but those adjustments start shrinking when these guys are with their
Are just all.
fourth foul early in the third. Um,
And it's like you had this Jabari example. You're
yeah,
playing Jabari Smith at center instead of Schengen. He picks up
sure.
four fouls. Now you're get forced out of your adjustment. Like just
Right.
kind of, yeah, I totally
And
agree.
then you
That's
bring
tough.
Steven Adams in, but like then you have to switch up your play style because now
Yeah.
you don't have another 3-point shooter.
And now Curry's going off. And now Curry's
Yeah.
going off because we can't track Curry yeah, exactly. Exactly. I'm very curious. I think the Rockets to win the series, it would have to be a long series though. They would need to just beat the brakes off the Warriors in like games like let's say 2 and 4 and just kind of like take the wind out of the Warriors to the point where they don't have any juice left. Like you
Yeah.
could get to if you're the Rockets, you could get to game 6 and just potentially like beat the Warriors in a close game to win the series. Just if you've beaten the brakes off the Warriors before then, just like kind of take their number. And honestly, like the Rockets aren't going to back down for anyone, man. Like they hate the Warriors. Tari Eason talks about it publicly that he hates the Warriors. It's his least favorite team. Um, puts on a Instagram story. It's hilarious. He literally is like "F the Warriors." Instagram
Yeah.
story.
It's great,
Um,
dude. H-Town stand
but
up.
they're gonna fight. So
Bro, for me, it's honestly Amen Thompson. Like this is like that if he can score 20 to 23 points per game, I think that's it. I think that they win. I think like this could be his coming out party. This is like a very like Cade, just like how Cade in the East. I think this could be his coming out party.
I kind of already got him in penciled in for that. Like
Sheesh.
against guys like Draymond, the issue is Draymond's like a free safety, but Amen's too quick. Like Amen is
So quick.
he's still gonna be able to find his spots. The thing is, Amen can't score 25 a game. He doesn't have a back like that right now. But
Exactly.
you know, he's gonna go 7 for 10 with 5 free throws. He's gonna shoot 70% this series with free throws a game.
Damn, bro. I'm so excited for this series. This
Um,
series, man. Can't wait.
can I give you my breakdown of the West playoffs from here? We can kind of
Yeah.
this that kind of is our first round preview.
Yeah.
We'll obviously review previews as the series goes
As
on.
mm,
Yeah. Um, but so given I have the Warriors beating the Rockets in 7, one of my controversial takes, I actually think the Warriors would beat the Lakers in 6. And I think that given my previous takes also, I think the Thunder would beat the Clippers in 5. I think the Thunder are just an extremely hard matchup for the Clippers. I don't. I think they would beat the brakes off the Clippers potentially, and you're getting deep into the playoffs, which is where we've seen the Clippers just run out of gas. Um, I really think the Thunder would beat the brakes off the Clippers, honestly. Which would be crazy to watch. But I think it would happen. Um, and yeah, again, I think the Thunder just have so many things to like. Norm Powell's great and all, but if he's getting guarded by Caruso and then Casey Wallace for 48 minutes a game, like
yeah. I mean, it's tough to say I'm brave for having a slightly different take. We have the same opinion on that side. I think the Thunder win in 6 over the Clippers. On the rundown point, I think it's really a question of you know fitness on injuries, and Kawhi Leonard just he's an absolute terminator, except for his knees, right? So um, now if there's the injury concerns, obviously that all goes away, and that probably adds to my take. Because if he was fully healthy, I don't know, I'd give the Clippers a much better chance of being able to pull this thing off because you could argue that their top end talent is relatively on par with the Thunder. But I'm going to go Thunder in 6. And then on the other side, I have the Warriors going to win against Houston. I feel weird about this Lakers Warriors. Just I think maybe I'm biased about 2 seasons ago when the Lakers beat the Warriors, but those were two very different teams, of course. Um, but that's like
That's
just so,
I mean,
yeah,
that's a team with Anthony Davis who,
right, right,
like, frankly, like I think the Warriors feel more confident playing against a slower Luka team, um, than a Lakers team with Anthony Davis, especially considering the struggles that the Lakers have in the front court now. It's not like they have Mark Williams who can't expose like inefficiencies of like Draymond, Jimmy pairings in the front court. They're not like Jackson Hayes is great and all, but you're throwing 2 lobs a game to him, not like 7.
right.
Um, so I think actually that I think the Lakers are a pretty good matchup for the Warriors in terms of like I think the Lakers are gonna end up going small when it's crunch time, and you're playing the same game as the Warriors, and the Warriors feel probably pretty comfortable going mano and mano, especially given like my concerns about Pods and Moody like being anything on offense. Um, my concerns are kind of diminished when like a lot of the Lakers guards can struggle defensively. As good as Gabe Vincent is at times, what is he going to give you? Austin
Yeah,
Reeves is amazing offensively. What does he give me
we'll see.
defensively? You're
Yeah,
probably like Pods and Moody can still like can find their ways to 15 points a game in that series with Luca and Reeves guarding them, despite however good those guys are on offense. That's
yeah.
kind of my rationale.
I hear that. I think like all things equal, you can get a couple like Rui games in there as well. Vando's gonna kind of have his fingerprints. He's like a light version of Draymond Green in certain ways there. But other than that, like
The compliment. That's a big compliment to Jerry Vanderbilt.
I mean,
I'm just
light,
I'm
right?
not saying.
Um, and I'll go Lakers just because you have 3 shot makers in down the stretch instead of 2. That's kind of my rationale there. And then I had the Thunder at 6 over the Lakers just due to the sheer firepower. Although
I got
I
that.
love, yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
got the Thunder, and yeah, I got the Thunder in 6 over the Warriors too. Like I think it's a good. I think the Warriors are a tough matchup for the Thunder, and I think
yeah, damn. All right.
just like the Lakers, I actually think both the Lakers and the Warriors and their independent ways are like kind of weird matchups for the Thunder. And I think the Thunder slam them.
Then they go, oh, that's tricky. That's fun.
Like, oh dang! Like you went small ball. Like congrats on winning Game 3. you know, you know,
Bruh. I hope
uh,
it's not like one of those things where, it's like an anime where you have like a really tough like opponent and then the villain's just like so freaking good that they're like, oh, you're using this style. Fun. And then they just beat you like that.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
that's what it's gonna be. It's like the Elite
yeah.
Four in Pokemon.
It'll be fun,
Um,
man. I'd be so curious to see if there's a team that can go up 2-1 against the Thunder in the West.
that would yeah, that's the thing. If you're gonna beat the Thunder, you have to steal
Yeah, you have
one of the
to.
first 2 games. You're probably not getting into Game 6, Game 7,
Yeah,
stealing a game in OKC, like on the road
that's
Game
so
6
tough.
OKC or on the road Game 5 in OKC. Like
With that crowd, bro, like
um
that's tough. East.
Western Conference Finals MVP. I got SGA. Yeah,
Oh,
let's go to the East.
yeah. I got
Let
Chet.
me respect.
No, I don't have
Um
Chet.
Honestly, I don't hate that take, especially if it's a Lakers. If it's a Lakers Thunder series, I don't hate that shot take.
It'd be bold. Um,
They're just gonna feed him.
Shea's just so good, and he's gonna win MVP. Unfortunately
Uh,
for you, I think.
um, yeah.
East.
They don't want to see a Serbian man win. I was gonna say European man win, but that was gonna get a
Wow.
little
Wild.
xenophobic. That was gonna get a little
Yeah, that's crazy. They want to
yeah.
see a Canadian win, man. Um,
They want to see the 51st state win some.
oh, Lord, help us all. Well, we'll
God.
we'll, we'll get we'll get to that, and maybe
Yeah,
spit politics in the off season.
yeah, maybe I'll be living there in a few years.
Yeah, there we go. East.
East. I got okay, so I got the Cavs being the playing team, but then sweeping Celtics over
Same.
Magic, Knicks over Pistons in 7, Pacers over Bucks in 6. I think the Cavs beat whoever Pacers or Bucks probably beat them in 6 games or 5. I think both those teams struggle probably matchup wise against the Cavs. Similar situation where I think like Neesmith is great as a wing guy. He's going to guard D Mitch. Neesmith isn't going to get a chance to guard a wing like a Jalen Brown. Like I think Jalen Brown is the type of guy Neesmith is good against guarding, and he'll be good against the Cavs guards, for example. But outside of that, I think a lot of the struggles that the Pacers or the Bucks have are easily exploitable by the Cavs.
Um, yeah, I mean, I think those are all fair. I obviously have the Bucks winning over the Pacers. I weirdly think that the Pacers would give the Cavs a tougher run for their money, even though I'm picking the Bucks here, just because of like the offensive versatility and that Cavs weakness that we talked about already in their guard defense. I also have the Knicks winning over the Pistons in 6. I have the Celtics winning in 5 over the Magic. And then I have the Celtics. I think the Celtics are going to win in 5 over the Knicks.
I have that as well.
A gentleman's sweep or something like that. I have the Cavs beating the Bucks, and then I think the Celtics will beat the Cavs in like a 6. I don't know how challenging of a 6 it's going to be, but I think it'll be a 6 where I'm like freaking out a little bit as a fan for a game. But that's about
That's
it.
fair. I got the Cavs. I got the Celtics beating the Cavs in 5.
Sure.
The Cavs' defensive struggles in the second half are my biggest concerns with the Celtics series specifically. When the Cavs are able to hold up better on defense, that's a team where when the games get grimy, D Mitch is going quick, and that's like one of the criticisms I have of the Celtics. When the games get grimy, they're like a little slow. The ball
Yeah,
moves a little slower,
it
passing is a
does.
little slower.
It
And
does.
that's something that the Cavs actually don't really struggle with. But defensively, like can't guard, can't get there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think at times that's been a struggle, especially in the second half. The first, and listen, if they tap back in to a lot of what they're doing, and frankly, like it's easy to get stagnant when you seal the #1 seed, and when they lost, kind of when it
Yeah.
was clear that the Thunder were going to clinch home court for the whole NBA. So but yeah, I kind of have to go Celtics in 5.
Yeah. But it's fair enough.
And, I got Tatum as Eastern Conference Finals MVP. I think he's gone up a level. I don't know if I would rank him much higher on my list of best players, but maybe he's moved up a tier. And
Maybe.
I'm more scared of him than I have been previously. I don't know.
It's probably the
It's a
how.
yeah.
Like, does he like what kind of statement series does he have? Um,
I feel pretty confident that honestly this year I've been very impressed with it. Is just go get a bucket.
yeah,
Team
in
needs
this,
a sense of the moment. I think a sense of the moment is something that Tatum's having this year. Even if it's, again, it's in a very emotional take. The Celtics have been about as good as they were last year, right? Like we're picking here.
right. All right. Well,
Uh,
so with that, we have the same finals contenders.
we do. And I got
Surprise,
the
surprise.
Celtics beating the Thunder in 6, and I think it could be 5.
Wow.
I'm really concerned about the Thunder offense when you get to a series like this where the team can go mano a mano with them on defense as well. Um, the Thunder offenses we've seen, and I don't want to go back to the IST tournament too hard, but I think that was a little bit of like when the game gets grimy, like there's a lot of pressure on Jalen Williams and Chet to create offense, and that was obviously IST. Chet was injured throughout that tournament, but even in a lot of those games, when the games got slow, the Celtics are going to feel really comfortable letting Caruso shoot the ball. They're going to feel really comfortable letting Case and Wallace shoot the ball, and like um, the Celtics are good enough defensively to force those guys to make shots. It's not like SJ is just going to get his,
Right.
like a lot of other players would just get theirs, and Um, yeah, I got the Celtics being Thunder in 6. I think it's a pretty tough matchup for the Thunder. They'll make the finals. They get that experience. But I think the Celtics sense the moment. They're going to come out gunning. Um, I think Missoula is not going to mess around with them, and they'll be raising another trophy. And I think Tatum is going to be a problem. I feel pretty confident feeling the same as Tatum is going to be a problem in this playoffs.
I mean, I landed 6 for a different reason. I think it could be closer to 7, which I actually feel fine with. The Celtics have been great on the road this season, so I'd be okay with that. Um, I think your exact point about the offense getting slow in like kind of clutch moments and kind of needing a Derek White bailout three or Peyton Pritchard bailout three, it feels like, to get them back into it is frustrating as a Celtics fan. And the Thunder's just lockdown defense can only exacerbate that. They can't fall into that trap of just slowing it down at the end of the games, even though from what I've heard, like on Simmons, Russillo, they've talked about how they have like some of the most effective offense at the end of games. My eye test doesn't always see that. But I think their defense has also gone up a notch. I think their bench has gotten a lot better since last year too. I actually do think the Celtics are better this year than they were last year. I think Tatum is significantly better. I don't know how much Jaylen Brown has been better. I think that knee is going to be something to watch for the whole postseason. But Porzingis, knock on wood, has been healthy. Horford remains good. Sam Hauser's been more of a threat.
And I'm
So
concerned. I'm concerned about the Thunder's extra adjustments, just playing kind of into the Celtics' hands. I mean, if you go Horford, Porzingis, and stretch out a lot of the big man lineups, like even if they go small, then you just have size advantage. It's kind of tough for the Thunder. This math game is or the mix and matching lineups might get tough.
it'll be interesting. I think the Celtics are just going to hone in on Shea and just
Oh,
let
and
it
it's going to
cook
be
it.
like J-Dub, can you go?
Yeah,
Can you go
you
score
you do it.
30? Yeah,
It's your turn.
J-Dub, can you score 30? Check, can you score 25? And if they do that, the Thunder will, right? Like
Yeah,
that will be the situation. But it's like,
yeah,
let's see him, brother.
we got to see it.
I think Chet is very fascinating in this. If it'll get to this finals and it'll become like, can Chet be the center? Because iHeart is going to get played out of the series, I think. And yeah, like he'll get. iHeart will still be good, right? But he's
Yeah.
just going to stretch. The floor is just going to stretch too wide for him.
hmm
As good as he is as a passer at times, to be fair. So like I like that's the thing about iHeart. He's just not just like a glass cleaner. Like he's more flexible than him. But yeah.
It's gonna be fun, man. Can't wait. Best part of the
Oh, dude,
year.
best part of the year. This was a
Let's
great
go.
preview. I'm excited to
Yes,
see
sir.
his series kickoff. Obviously, you guys will have seen some of the play-in results, so those will be out of date. But yeah, also go Warriors, baby.
Let's go Warriors. We don't see y'all in the finals. No need for that. Let's go Celtics. Let's have a great playoffs, everybody. Max, you got anything else before we wrap up?
I got nothing else. This was very pod. Long one too, by the way. Hope you guys-
Long one. We're gonna obviously do post-series analyses and pre-series analyses, as inevitably one or both of us will be wrong on these. But folks, we love y'all. So excited for the best part of the season. We'll be back soon enough with a little Cavs preview, perhaps. But until then, y'all be easy. Enjoy the rest of this play-in. And we'll be here chilling as always, spitting hoops. See y'all soon.
The ball.
See you.